Welcome back to the Top Notch Documentaries YouTube channel. When most people think of donuts and coffee, they flash a smile and feel good. Donuts and coffee are both universally loved and enjoyed, and Dunkin Donuts is a convenient spot to enjoy both. Unfortunately, for patrons of a Dunkin Donuts in Hanover, Maryland, one night in April 2015 will change all of that forever. The Dunkin Donuts at 7657 Arundel Mills Boulevard is like any other coffee shop chain. It's frequented often and has a drive-through. Despite it being a place where you'd not expect a serious crime to go down, and the fact that it's rated 4 out of 5, the story of this video might have you avoiding this particular Dunkin's. With what was described as horrible service in the review section, it would initially seem that the play-out of events from April 12th of 2015 was not unheard of, as service isn't listed as a strong suit. However, customers would be shocked when they learn the real reason for lack of service on this occasion. Today I share with you the story of FBI Top 10 Most Wanted Fugitive Bhadreshkumar Chetanbhai Patel. I hope you enjoy. Arranged marriage is the norm in India, and 24-year-old Bhadreshkumar and 21-year-old Patel were no exception when it came to following this tradition. The tradition has been in place for centuries, and the parents of each person prepare the marriage and choose a partner that best fits their criteria. Now, this can be a good thing, or it can be an extremely bad thing. Since divorce is heavily frowned upon in India and pretty much never occurs unless something is seriously wrong, you could end up being trapped, living alongside someone who you don't like or want to be around for 10 minutes, let alone the rest of your life. Unfortunately, for the newly married Patel, this sounded like the situation that she was now facing. Now newly married, Patel and her husband had arrived in the United States of America, eager to make the most of their honeymoon visa. However, the implemented decision of another person would ultimately prove to be a fateful one. It was a death sentence for Patel. It was around 10 PM on Sunday, April 12th of 2015. And customers were becoming frustrated that nobody was at the Dunkin Donuts counter to take their orders. Customers at the drive-thru had the same problem, and this lack of activity had left everyone both frustrated and confused. Had someone robbed the place, or was this lack of service to be expected? Looking behind the counter, it was as if every worker had just upped and left. Majorly weirded out by the lack of assistance, one of the customers walked up to a police cruiser nearby and asked for the officer's assistance. Upon hearing about the suspicious situation and sensing that something wasn't quite right, he immediately exited his patrol car and moved toward the back entrance to investigate. The officer would walk upon a grisly scene in the back room. A woman lay deceased on the floor, with visible upper body stab wounds. It appeared as though she'd been both beaten and stabbed with a kitchen knife. Homicide investigators quickly arrived on scene, secured it, and began to piece the events together. The surveillance footage proved to be the most useful evidence. It showed both Bhadreshkumar and Patel entering the back room of Dunkin Donuts, and Bhadreshkumar leaving a minute later, hurrying out of the back room. Customers were actually in the shop at the time, but the couple weren't interested in getting their orders. An argument between the couple had reportedly started over a phone call. Investigators believe that Patel murdered Patel because she expressed her desire to return back to India to be closer to her family. The surveillance video shows Patel holding his wife's phone. She'd been speaking to her mother just minutes before her life was taken. Patel had no relatives in the States, and perhaps she was feeling isolated, residing in a foreign country with a man whom she was now forced to spend the rest of her life with. The marriage ceremony had taken place the month prior back in India, and the pair had flown into New Jersey on a honeymoon visa to live with Patel's family. The promises of a prosperous future in America were shattered when Patel revealed that she longed to return back to India. Without a strong family support structure around her, Patel would have seen how bleak her life in America was going to be. She had been married for only a month, and already the arranged marriage wasn't ideal. Patel already had family in New Jersey, and so he technically had full control over his wife and her movements. Not long before, the couple's honeymoon visa had expired, and they had meant to have departed from the States just weeks earlier. They had moved into a residence in Maryland and landed their Dunkin Donut jobs, having left Patel's relatives' home in New Jersey. Patel seemed happy with life in the United States. Despite his expired visa, He expressed his desire to remain in the States and clearly wasn't happy with Palek's refusal to accept his wishes. He wasn't willing to take no for an answer and wasn't open to seeing it from her perspective. Investigators felt as though the killing was a crime of passion. It seemed like a spur-of-the-moment decision and looked like an all-too-regular case of one partner taking the life of the other. Investigators were confident following his wife's vicious murder, Patel walked back to his residence and retrieved some belongings. Patel then took a taxi to Newark, New Jersey, which is roughly 200 miles away, and there he paid for a hotel room in cash on the spot, which is highly suspicious in and of itself. This hotel is close to the Newark Liberty International Airport. Whilst Patel was being driven out of the state, law enforcement had basically already solved the case. Palek's body had been found half an hour after she had died, and within an hour following this discovery, police had a suspect name and surveillance confirmed who he was. Given this quick response time by law enforcement and the expired visa, it doesn't look like Patel managed to fly out of the country. His ability to fly may have been prevented by this, or he simply knew that by taking a taxi to a hotel near to an airport, it would imply that he'd fled the country, which is similar to the Jason Derek Brown long-term airport parking setup. Not surprisingly, this didn't confuse law enforcement or have them heading on an international manhunt. They felt as though he had remained in the United States and could have obtained supplies or shelter from his relatives in New Jersey. He didn't want to leave the United States after all. Following his overnight stay at the hotel, Patel was driven to Newark Penn Station, and that was the last place that he was seen. He hasn't been seen since. Palek's family were devastated following hearing the news that their daughter's life had been taken. They'd unknowingly set her up with a complete nut, and she had essentially been trapped overseas, wanting to return home. The couple's marriage hadn't been working out, and this could have been for any number of other reasons. The relocation probably further placed a wedge between them both, and the phone call back to India was likely what pushed Patel into a rage with Palek. He sounds like a controlling type of person, and the crime itself really emphasises this. Given that state lines had been crossed in this case, the crime was shared with the FBI. Patel was placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list in 2017. The crime itself was brutal, and this paired with the law enforcement theory that someone outside the United States knows his location is what had him added to the list. Patel's wanted poster was sent all over the country and back to his home country of India. It even appeared in New York City's Times Square at one stage. Still, little updates have circulated in this case since that time, and Patel is still at large as of the time of this video. Patel is probably still in the United States. It blew my mind that he'd managed to pull off this type of crime in such a reckless manner, and he still eludes the authorities to this very day. It doesn't seem like a stretch to say that he's had help from someone, and this could be from relatives or someone who is clueless to his real identity. He travelled by taxi, and it didn't sound like he had a car at the time of his wife's murder. Realistically, he has now changed his name and operates in discretion. Let's hope that he's caught soon. People like this don't deserve to walk the streets. This has been the story of Bhadreshkumar Chetanbhai Patel. As always, thank you for watching.